Agat Ceann Comhairle. Taoiseach, this morning I want to raise with you the issue of access to resource teaching hours for children with Down syndrome. Down syndrome is, by its nature, complex and affects intellectual ability, speech, language, hearing, memory, vision, motor skills and general health. Taoiseach says, I'm sure you understand Down syndrome seriously affects a child's ability to engage with the school curriculum. It affects 1 in every 546 births in Ireland each year. So that means each year about 120 children are born with Down syndrome, and approximately 80 of these will begin mainstream primary education each year. So it is by definition a complex, low incidence disorder, and yet remarkably it's not one of the 11 low incidence disabilities that qualify for resource teaching hours. Prior to 2005, all children with Down syndrome received resource teaching hours. But since then, children with Down syndrome who have IQ scores in the mild range of learning disability do not qualify for specifically allocated resource teaching hours. So, Taoiseach, this is an important issue which affects no more than about 24 to perhaps 30 children each year. And it could be easily resolved by simply adding Down syndrome to the list of low-incident disabilities. It's a small number of children, but the kind of support that would be afforded to those children could literally transform their lives and their learning experience. So, Taoiseach, I want to ask you what you might do to address this issue, if you might speak with the Minister for Education, whether or not you would be prepared to come back to the Dáil with the proposal to address what I think is an unfair discrimination against a section of children who have Down syndrome.
Thank you. Taoiseach.
Thanks, Ceann Comhairle. I know that Down Syndrome Ireland organised a briefing here in Leinster House earlier this week for members of the House, at which they made the case that Down syndrome should be regarded as a disability in its own right, and that children with Down syndrome should qualify automatically for additional resource hours and resource assistance in the education system. I have got a report. I wasn't able to attend the briefing myself, but I did get a report on the briefing, and Minister Ruairi Quinn is already addressing the issues that have been raised in the briefing. He has asked the National Council for Special Education to provide expert, independent and evidence-informed policy advice on the education of children and others with disabilities. This will include the issue of whether Down syndrome should be reclassified as a low-incidence disability in all instances, regardless of assessed cognitive ability. This advice from the National Council for Special Education on how the education system can best support children with special educational needs is expected to be published in the coming weeks. I don't think that we should preempt just today what that expert policy advice will give, because the NCSE is an organisation with the greatest expertise in this area, and they've been asked to consider this policy issue. I want to assure the Deputy and the House that the Government and the Minister for Education is very conscious that meeting students' educational needs is a paramount consideration which must be kept at the centre of any proposals and recommendations. And as you know, the Government continues to spend €1.3 billion a year supporting the education of children with special needs. We're committed to continuing to explore how best to improve their experiences and their educational outcomes. We have heard the case that has been made by Down Syndrome Ireland, and as I've said, the Minister for Education is already addressing the issues that have been raised.
Deputy MacDonald.
Thank you, Taoiseach. And of course, I'm sure for all of us, the central concern is to ensure that all of our children have the best educational opportunities and supports. But I'm sure that you'll agree with me that in the case of a child with a disability, or for this purposes a child with Down syndrome, the duty on us is all the greater, because the need of the child is so much more. I'm glad to hear that Minister Quinn will have a report on the general issue of children with disabilities and how supports for them are provided. But this is a very specific instance, Taoiseach, and as I said to you, up until 2005, every child with Down syndrome was in receipt of teaching resource supports. Since that time, a segment of those children with Down syndrome have been denied that very basic support. I fully appreciate that policy has to be based on evidence and expertise, but can I put it to you that Down Syndrome Ireland have considerable expertise in this area, and equally that the state until 2005 recognised that every child with Down syndrome required resource support. So I think it was wrong for the previous administration to withdraw that. I think it's essential that this administration now put that matter to right. And Taoiseach, it affects a very small number of children, but should you do the right thing, it will make a huge, huge difference to those children and to their families. So can I ask Taoiseach if you can let us know at what stage you or the Minister for Education propose to come back on this specific issue, and to reassure all of us in the Dáil that these resource hours will be afforded to every child that has Down syndrome.
Thank you. Taoiseach.
Well, as I've said earlier, we have heard the case that was made by Down Syndrome Ireland. As you have said, they do know what they're talking about. They know it from experience, and we take that very seriously. As I said, I wasn't able to attend the briefing myself, but I did get a report on it from my parliamentary colleagues who did attend. We're addressing it. I said in my reply, and I repeat, that the assessment that is being done by the National Council for Special Education will include the issue of whether Down syndrome should be reclassified as a low incidence disability in all instances, regardless of assessed cognitive ability. So it is being addressed. The case that was made by Down Syndrome Ireland is being addressed by the Minister. He expects that to be in a position to publish the policy advice in the coming weeks. So we're not talking about a prolonged period of time here. We've heard the case that is made. It is being addressed. There is a process by which the Minister for Education is looking at it. The Down syndrome issue is very much part of that process, and I think we should await what that expert advice is. As I said, he'll be publishing it in a matter of weeks, and we've heard what the case that was made by Down Syndrome Ireland to the all-party group that they met earlier this week.
Thank you.